Jeanne Massey now. We're very fortunate to have Jeanne here in the state of Minnesota. Jeanne is head of Fair Vote Minnesota, but is really very much a leader on voter reform and ranked choice voting around the country. So she can sort of update on what's going on elsewhere in Minnesota, what happened in St. Paul, if we know yet, and some of the things that we're also planning on doing throughout the state over the year ahead.
Thanks, Gail. Well, first, let me extend a thank you to Gail and Tom for convening this media briefing of what happened in the election this year in St. Louis Park, and to the entire council for their efforts in bringing ranked choice voting to St. Louis Park. And I'll echo the gratitude to the staff team who pulled off one of the smoothest ranked choice voting elections I've ever witnessed, and I've witnessed my share. I think it's St. Louis Park's leadership that makes that happen, certainly. It's also the fact that while you are a city of many firsts, you were not the first to make it happen. And with each implementation and each iteration, each city that does this, it gets smoother and easier and more understanding for voters to engage in the process and be effective along the way. So kudos to the entire community for engaging in this process in such a remarkable way. It's a story to share widely across the country, and just getting you all on video to be able to do that and for the paper to be here to amplify that story is important for the next set of communities to move forward. And there are many. But first, before I tell you where they're all going, let me share with you who was all on the ballot with you this past Tuesday. There were 8 cities across the country using ranked choice voting. Only 8. Well, this is great progress, and it's actually quite a lot. Now, that's not the only cities doing it in this particular election cycle. Most actually do it in even years, so there are many more that will do it next year. But from San Francisco to 2 communities in Utah to East Hampton, Michigan, ranked choice voting is now the way that they hold local elections. It's expanding very fast across the country. Here in Minnesota, we're hoping to see ballot measures in Minnetonka and Bloomington and in Greater Minnesota, Red Wing, and Rochester next year. And those are just the cities that are organizing for ballot measures. Many more are hoping to be right behind. So it's accelerating at a fast pace at a local level where communities have had the innovative opportunity and the power to actually adopt a new voting method and get this off the ground in the United States. Many of you know it's not a new system. It's used internationally for the better part of 100 years, but it's newer in the United States. So it really took innovative and forward-thinking communities like St. Louis Park to move this issue forward. We're hoping to see ballot measures for statewide initiatives in Massachusetts and Alaska next year. They will follow Maine in using ranked choice voting for state partisan races. And some of you may know that Maine became the first state to put ranked choice voting on as the way to elect the president next year. They'll be the only state to do that for presidential elections. It's very exciting. However, 5 other states will be using it for the presidential primary in the Democratic Party because there's so many candidates. So it is a movement that is accelerating very quickly. St. Louis Park is, I think, going to help catapult it even faster because of the level of success that you actually pulled off this past Tuesday. It was that smooth. And congratulations to the candidates who really did go through the ranked choice voting process in the at-large race. You did such a tremendous job. And the fact that you were door knocking that extensively, because you really have to under ranked choice voting, increased turnout. So to reference Larry's point on the turnout, we see this in almost all cities that use ranked choice voting. That increase in turnout is a key reason why there's a lot of excitement about that, and that increase is led by the competition that we're seeing in these races. St. Louis Park was able to tally the races in a faster fashion than St. Paul this year. St. Paul also held elections using ranked choice voting on Tuesday. They're counting as we speak. I don't think we have the final results. They were doing a hand count today. We'll know within the hour. But there were 2 races out of 7 that went to a runoff, Wards 1 and Ward 6, so we're all anxiously awaiting those results. But similar to St. Louis Park, not the counting process, was the robust nature of the conversations that took place. And what we're really seeing the value being from ranked choice voting is how much richer and diverse and inclusive the conversations are. It invites more candidates to run, more candidates to campaign, and it really changes how candidates and voters are engaging in the process, making it much more participatory, inclusive, and diverse. It's the direction in the future of democracy. Gabe, you had the best line all night. By 2021, we should all be hoping that we can use ranked choice voting for our elections at every level. I think that's the direction we're going, and thanks to voices like yours, I have no doubt that it's going to be possible. So thank you all for coming. St. Louis Park, once again, a huge kudos to you for making this one more very important success story in the movement for a better democracy.